Cats, cops, and C4. She settles back into her seat as the report from the handler projects over her. She smirks at the sight of it. The sniper is even more useful if she's running. This way, the Undaunted and all their allies will chase and look exactly the wrong way as an actual prize is secured. With the veil broken in, there was no real reason to actually retrieve it, especially as they already have some kind of sample of similar technology. It would only take a few more moments to get them looking into yet a third direction, and then lead them down a trail that had a different prize at the end, allowing her to walk up and simply take what she wants. After so much excitement, no one starts looking for the slow, subtle, and careful route. So she sends out a single message for someone that owes her to make a certain choice. Take off in a few minutes. Here's a pamphlet with our in-flight options. The stewardess says to her, and the sniper takes the little booklet with a smile. This was unexpected, but she had heard the woman drop them off at other rooms as well. Maybe it's a new gimmick to stand out and attract more customers, like having a menu to really make the flight feel more homey. Still, she'll worry about that later. She doesn't fully relax until she feels the ship take off and get moving. An hour's wait and she's safely out of the system. "Oh boy, where are we going?" an energetic voice says, and she turns in shock, and her plasma pistol passes through the holographic head of a projection. It's a very familiar tiny child in an oversized uniform. "Not gonna work. Now we need to talk, lady." How did you? She demands. She had swept the room after being given it already. The pre-flight warm-up had given her time to scan it twice. The only projectors in this room were for the view screens. "Didn't you read the pamphlet?" "What? Oh, you little wet..." She begins to mutter as she opens the pamphlet, and sure enough, there's an extra page folded in. One that says there's going to be a serious talk with a very unserious-looking Undaunted. If you can arrange this, if you can find me, then why haven't I already been shot? Do you want to be shot? I can still arrange it, Private Stream says, and she shakes her head. Then let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what I'm here to talk about, which is, don't do it again. You've only caused some property damage, but the gear we've gotten our hands on in return is enough that we're calling it a wash. But seriously, don't drag civvies into things. Oh, like someone as self-righteous as to work with the police would let civilians be crushed when she can show off her strength and save them. They weren't in danger of anything more than a scare, especially with that girl as an empty handmaster. Okay then, lady. If you found me, you know my name. I know the name you put on the paperwork, but that's not your actual name. But since we're still being all nice and polite, I'm not going to use the name you don't want me to know. Really? Yes, really. And what is my name? She challenges him. Bonnie Bell Harris. He says, and her thought pattern screeches to a stop as he says the name of a little girl that never got into the business of murder. Shit. Sorry, lady, we're kind of good at this. He says, how did you even... how? She demands, and he grins. A whole bunch of things, really. When we confirmed that there were railgun rounds coming at us, we started looking up murder cases where railguns were used. Of course, on Centris, that only narrows it down into 500 million. So we narrowed it down further to ones that went unsolved. We eventually found a pattern and followed it. You're good, but everyone makes mistakes. Even you? I'm probably making one right now, Private Stream says flippantly. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you, Miss Bonnabelle Harris, currently known as Janet Wright. And what are we talking about in particular? Simple. You see, we've bumped and bumbled into stupid people all over the place. The hard, the competent, and the skilled are rare. You're those things. If you're looking to recruit me, the answer is no. I don't work well with groups. Even with a lot of money being offered? Even then. Not to mention, I don't think you'll trust me much. True, the loose leash protocols are only for trusted men and women. You're not trusted, so we'd keep you close and surrounded by more loyal people. Which is why I say no. I figured I just made the offer for the sake of completeness, Private Stream says. What's the actual offer? When this hologram deactivates, you'll find a communicator with a holo projector in this seat. If you find yourself with another job that leads you to take out a target that we're protecting, or one of us or our allies, then use it and we'll talk prices. Oh, some people need a community, Some people need purpose, and some people need a way to be their best self. You're none of those things. You want money, so we'll talk money. I'm so glad we understand each other, Bonnabel says, and Private Stream nods. I suppose this is where you also show me the hidden weapon to threaten me with if I go rogue or start thinking about selling you out, isn't it? Oh no, I'm positive that you're quite aware of the potential issues, especially seeing as you know I still have enough tricks to reach out and touch you, Private Stream says happily. I'm sure, so you're letting me go? She asks. We are. Also, we found the little camera. Is it when you saw them disposing of the bomb that you decided to quit? I had the fairly sudden but absolutely certain realization that if I set it off, I wouldn't be able to handle the blowback. See, that's smart, but you're not a team player, so I understand, Private Stream says. Just remember, you avoid trotting on a lot of tails and stepping on a lot of toes if you leave people that aren't expected to fight out of it. Is that a command of some kind? She asks, just a friendly reminder. Otherwise, the next person to suggest it might not be so friendly. Ah, I understand. Good. And remember any missions that point in our direction and you give us a call. We'll talk money. Private Stream finishes before his image winks out, leaving her alone with her thoughts. He knew her name, the name she had been given by her mother, a name she hasn't used in decades. The name of a terrified little girl who got swept into the madness of the lower levels and learned two things very fast. First, they can never know your name. Secondly, railguns and bombs are much more reliable. She takes a deep breath and sets aside the communicator. She then signals for the stewardess to come back. She'd like something hard and large. Potentially hard enough for a Canador. When an unfamiliar woman shows up, she suddenly has an understanding who did this, but not the full how. Stop pouting. Modan tells her even as Malin's cheeks puff out in annoyance. Easy for you to say. You're null immune. And it takes null to slow you down. It's a compliment, not an insult, Modan states, and she huffs. Damn, this girl must have had a good damn chemical synthesizer or something. This is some top quality nitro, Cenk says as he scans the oily liquid in the barrels. Is that why you had us take them down so carefully? Vera asks. They were attached to bombs. The smart thing to do around bombs is always to be more careful than you think you need to be. It's usually not careful enough, and you're damn lucky to be alive. Like now. So what is it? It's a dangerous explosive compound. Small amounts of it can be made into medicine, and it's often refined into more stable explosives or fuel for rockets, he says as he slowly, carefully puts the lid back on. The really dangerous thing about it is that it's really easy to set off. If I shot this barrel with my gun, there's a very good chance we'd have a very big boom on our hands. Thankfully, it's also easy enough to stabilize. I just need a few chemicals to add to the mix, and we just have some heavy barrels of some formerly scary stuff. And with how much there is here, Modan trails off as he quickly does the math. We need to set up a police cordon and guard the barrels until I can get my special delivery in. Cenk states and Modan nods. Right, you make the call and... Hello, what's this? Modan begins to say as the Silent walks up and holds out a small, low-power camera. Ah, so that's how she knew you guys were handling the bomb. Clever. You know I'm actually kind of flattered. Whoever our sniper was, she took us seriously enough to have enough here to wipe out a starship. Yes, the woman knows that overkill is usually just enough kill. How dangerous is this nitro stuff? How big a boom? Vera asks. Even if you could resist the shockwave pulping you, or the heat from burning you alive, it would still have enough force to slam you into the neighboring spire like a meteor. Nitro's used as a main ingredient in things like dynamite. Cenk explains, pulling out a red stick. And this is the go-to for easily understood destruction on just about anything for centuries. Should you be waving that around? It's stable as dynamite. It needs the fuse here to be lit in order to go off, Chunk says before pulling the fuse out entirely. This one uses RDX as well, a different end product made out of nitro. And how powerful is that stick? Vera asks. It's comparable to a full-power plasma blast, making it one hell of a door opener, he says before tucking the stick away. Still, nitroglycerin is a contact explosive. It takes almost nothing to set it off. So let's give it some space, shall we? It's a relief to know that you're all safe. Although that your attacker was so eager to go so far and then back away is concerning, that place must have been prepared well in advance before anything started, Linda says over her communicator. I thought so too. Thankfully, she backed off, and if what the silent here is not saying is right, then she's been found. But I'm getting no details on what happened after, Cenk explains. I'm just trying to make sense of, Linda begins before the door to her office bursts open. Her shock pistol is up and ready at the sight of the formally dressed rabbi's woman, who then rushes towards Amy. That she has a specialized bandage over the stump of her ear, rather than a fully healed ear, speaks volumes about how worried she is. Miss Frost! Oh, thank goodness you've survived. I am so terribly sorry I wasn't there for you. A dreadful Nagasha witch tore off half my ear and struck me so hard I was rendered unconscious, Miss Duckett exclaims as she rushes up to hug the Ice Arumenta. I'll call you back. Miss Frost's guardian is here, Linda says. Best of luck, Chunk says. You too. Don't need it, but thank you. Chunk returns and she smirks. Part of her wants to call him arrogant, but he's backed it up too many times for it to be arrogance. The call ends and she stands up. Miss Duckett, while I appreciate the sight of a loving and attentive guardian, I do need to inform you of some things and ask you some questions. Of course. However, my first concern is Miss Frost. I do hope you understand that. I understand and applaud it. However, I need to know who might want your ward dead. Dead? I heard she was injured, then healed. She was fatally injured and kept alive by the sheer unbreakable will of my husband. Who on Centris, or beyond it, would possibly prosper by killing her? Linda asks, and Miss Duckett seems horrified, but not surprised. Gabriella? Amy asks in a scared tone and receives a hug from the older woman. Too many people, I'm afraid. There was an enormous legal battle on whether or not she should even be awoken to succeed the late Miss Amanda Frost. The unending wars for control of the Frost estates ended with a stalemate, and Amy was awoken and had an education given to her as a compromise option. The many losing parties in this compromise would all benefit, or rather, they would all have a chance to benefit, Gabriella explains, and Linda nods. Well, I hope you're ready to name names and list lists, because whoever's responsible used some pretty nasty technology and killed more women to get what they want. I'd like suspects, Linda says, and Gabriella nods. Of course, the first one I would consider capable of these things is